Hey, I'm the wine guy 757, and across the screen from me is my good friend and esteemed colleague Steve McGov up in the 703, Northern Virginia. How you doing there, Steve?
Good wine guy. Thanks very much for setting this up. Good to see you, and looking forward to tasting some wine today.
Yeah, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go today?
Well, I was thinking, what's the most quintessential expression of Chardonnay in the history of the world? I'd say Chablis. So, if you've got one handy, I'd say we crack a nice Chablis and do some tasting.
I do have one handy. Actually, you know what's funny? I remember growing up, my mom had a big green jug, a gallon jug of. It said Chablis on the label with the screw top, but I'm fairly certain there was zero Chardonnay in that bottle.
I'm absolutely certain the good people of Chablis have taken their name back, and rightfully now, nothing but wine from Chablis can be called that.
All right, well, let's go there. So, Steve, would you be able to tell us maybe a little bit about the geography where Chablis is located in France relative to the rest of Burgundy?
Absolutely. I actually am standing right in front of Chablis. Just coincidentally, it's right here northwest of Burgundy. So the Côte d'Or is right here, the Rhone's down here, Paris up here, Champagne. So really closer to Champagne than to the heart of Burgundy.
How about the soil, the terroir, the climate? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's cold weather relative to where Chardonnay can grow. So because of that, you end up with very high acid wines, lower alcohol wines. And in terms of the terroir, we're talking about clay, limestone, and then really what makes it very distinctive is the Kimmeridgian soil, which is basically fossilized, calcified remnants of the Jurassic period, and it actually comes through in the wine. Incredibly minerally and bright and even flinty at times. And that I think it's interesting that soil is unique to three areas of the world, all produce, in my estimation, the best white wines in the world: Champagne, the Eastern Loire, so Pouilly and Sancerre, and then, of course, Chablis.
Can you give us a little, maybe some details around some of the terroir and the exposure of some of the Grand Cru producers?
Yeah, so Grand Cru within Chablis is really just 2 kilometers right overlooking the city. Um, the distinctive part of it is it's basically the only part of Chablis that gets all day sun exposure. So you're going to have more ripening of the grapes. You're going to have higher alcohol wines that could stand up to using oak in the aging process. So I think that's the key differentiator. A lot of the Petit Chablis um, don't have that level of sugar and that ripeness of grapes, and as such, they do focus on stainless steel.
Now, Petit Chablis does not have the Kimmeridgian soil. Is that correct?
Um, yes and no. I mean, and I shouldn't be overly reductive. There's also Portlandian limestone in the region, but Petit Chablis is more on the outskirts of Chablis. And if you look at the 4 levels of Chablis, there's, as in everywhere in Burgundy, there's Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and then this is Chablis that we're going to be drinking today. And then Petit Chablis is kind of more of what they'd call the regional in the rest of the Côte d'Or.
So the region, I think they use, actually I know they use 100% Chardonnay. That's the only varietal in town. Most of the producers, they ferment in stainless and age in stainless. Some of the producers, I believe it's more the Premier Grand Crus, um, they will actually age in oak barrels because the wine is a little more intense, has better sun exposure, and can hold up to the oak. And then it's also on the lees, so when they filter out the lees, that takes away some of the oak. Sort of a stark contrast to some of the New World producers who tend to sometimes over oak their Chardonnay. This one went through malolactic. Is that correct?
Yeah, which is pretty common. And I think there's a misconception that any wine that goes through malolactic it is associated with that butter popcorn thing, and that is not the case. It's actually changing the malic acid, considered green apple acid, to lactic acid, milk acid. So you're having a more aggressive acidic experience of the acid with malolactic fermentation. That secondary fermentation brings a creamy smoothness to it. So even though it has the bright acidity in Chablis, it's got that creaminess to it without that butterscotch or butter popcorn flavor that some producers in the New World like to use.
Okay, so we're in Chablis. Who are some of your favorite producers from Chablis?
Well, first off, in my experience, it's hard to go wrong in Chablis.
I
Just
agree.
lots of great producers, and I can't recall the last time I had a bad Chablis wine. Maybe I'm just lucky, but yeah, one of my favorite producers is Charly Nicolle. Winery has been in his family, as is often the case in Burgundy, or almost always the case, for generations and generations. He really focuses on getting that quintessential essence of Chablis. So I don't know if you have any. I've got a few different
You
vintages, but
know, I happen to have a bottle right here.
oh, whoa, wait, is that the 2018
It's the 2018 Poo
Aspera?
Ada. I apologize for my funky
I,
French
I
pronunciation.
apologize for both of our French. Well, great, we've got the same bottle. Let's pour ourselves a glass
Yeah.
and yeah, talk about the producer a bit.
Okay.
So this particular wine and Charlie Nicole has Grand Cru and Premier Cru wines as well. This is their straight ahead Chablis. It is stainless steel fermentation, does go through full malolactic fermentation for that creaminess of the mouthfeel. About 10 to 12 months in oak, as Smooth mentioned earlier. And really, I think one of the quintessential expressions again of the minerality, the seashell, the oysters of the region. And yeah, love to taste and get your thoughts.
So we have our wine that we're gonna drink today. Let's give her a taste and check her out. What are you getting on the site? What does it look like to you?
Definitely medium concentration. I'd
Hmm.
say straw
I agree.
in terms of color.
I agree with that.
Um,
Any gas? Any effervescence?
Nope, no evidence of gas, but looks to me like just a prototypical excellent Chablis.
Yeah,
So
I
up
would
the
agree.
nose.
I would agree with all of that.
Excellent, excellent.
What are you getting on the nose?
No faults, no funk.
No
Um,
funk. There's some good funk actually sometimes, but there's no funk
oh,
here.
there's good funk. There's James Brown funk.
There's James Brown funk,
Mm-hmm.
P funk.
There's P funk, yeah.
It's got
But
moderate intensity, right?
yeah, getting some citrus.
Citrus. I'm getting kind of apple
Definitely
pear sort of
mm,
notes,
not
and
so much
I'm
a
getting
pear,
some
but yeah,
minerality. I think that's typical of a Chablis.
absolutely. That's characteristic, and yeah, also, yeah, just it's very clean and almost a salinity, which again goes back to the
I think
soil and the terroir.
right, right. I think sometimes the acidity too could just give a false sense of salinity on the finish.
Absolutely, that does happen. So what are we getting now for the coup de grace on the palate?
It's dry,
Uh-huh.
a little tart, citrus or apple pear for me. Definitely got the acidity of Chablis, medium plus, medium body. So got some complexity. What are you getting?
Yeah. Um, One, I wish I had a plate of oysters right
Mm.
now because I'm getting
What would
that.
be a good pairing for Chablis?
I mean, shellfish of any sort, the shellfish that have been fossilized and are in this wine essentially from the Jurassic period.
What grows together goes together, right? Is that
Exactly. My good friend Mario told me that.
right?
Yeah, no, I mean this is classic, and this is why I wanted to do something from Charlie because he just brings out the ultimate characteristics of that minerality and that bright citrus. I think this is just a
Classic
perfect
Chablis,
example. Yeah,
solid producer.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hey, it's always great to have a glass with you, even if it's virtual. And
Absolutely.
I hope the folks watching enjoyed. Chablis, can't go wrong with Chablis. Solid producers across the board. Um, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, no, to your point, it's a great value wine in the current wine, pricing climate, and you can't go wrong. And always great to have a drink with you, even from a few hundred miles away. And yeah, Steve McGov out.
Wine Guy 757 out. Check us out next time. See ya.
Having spent 10 days in Burgundy last year, I feel very bad for saying that Chablis is northwest of Burgundy. Chablis is part of Burgundy. It happens to be the farthest northwest corner of Burgundy, but it is Burgundian. So where I was going with my description of Camaragian soil is that it is clay limestone and then fossilized, calcified seashells from the Jurassic Age. I missed that last part, which really imparts the key attributes of the Chablis terroir.
So it's old stuff.